Are you ready?
It's gonna be a hot girl disco summer. I'm never doing that again. I apologize. Why did I do that? Here, let's fix it. Something cool. Stop chasing last week's box scores. That's not how you're going to win your fantasy football championships. You win by understanding why those breakouts happen and then attacking that exact matchup in the waiver wire with week 10 all but in the books. Let's give you a leg up on your league mates with our top week 11 waiver wire ads who are about to explode. Not just because of what they did last week, because we're not playing catch up, but because of the matchups that are about to make them fantasy gold. Let's get weird. And as always, let's just jump right into it, actually. We will start by addressing 4 great sleeper waiver wire ads that no one else is really talking about, and then finish off with the obvious ones because that's what everybody else is talking about. So we're going to give you the best of both worlds. Number 1, Malik Washington versus the Washington Commanders, and I believe they're playing somewhere like in Spain. Like, imagine that, right? And this is just a sidebar. Imagine this is the first game in Spain, first game in Madrid. We want to show them a really, really good football game. So let's go send the Washington Commanders and the Miami Dolphins. They'll really want to watch NFL football movie. Stupid. Just stupid. All right. Yes. Okay. Malik Washington only finished week 10 as the wide receiver 36. And yes, he only dropped 9.3 PPR fantasy points in that upset win against the Buffalo Bills. Shout out to Buffalo Bills. It was never you guys. It was always my Pats. But here's the key. He is Miami's premium slot receiver, playing nearly 50% of his snaps inside. And why do we mention that? Because the Washington Commanders continue to give up the most fantasy points per game to slot receivers in PPR format at over 19.5 points per game. He's rostered in only 18.8% of leagues. That's insane value for someone who's sitting on a goldmine matchup available in over 81% of your leagues. We also mentioned last week on our live shows that we liked guys like Mac Hollins. We loved guys like Jalen Naylor, not just on the live streams, but across the board. We hit some huge and spectacular calls, and we're going to continue to do so because nobody else is talking about those guys. We want to target the guys who have plus matchups. Sometimes the matchup game doesn't work. We also called out Taysom Hill. We were right about where the matchup was. We said that the matchup was fantastic for a tight end. We just didn't give enough credence and credit to Tyler Shuck. Tyler Shuck was phenomenal, and it ended up being Jawan Johnson. You live and learn. I digress. Let's get weird. Number 2, Pat Freiermuth versus the Cincinnati Bengals. I love that I talked about the Taysom Hill situation because this is another volatile tight end situation, but listen carefully. The Bengals defense gives up the most fantasy points to tight ends, and they're also bottom 10 against slot receivers. Muth has been dominating in the slot usage for Pittsburgh, especially as of late. He has 58% of his total snaps from the slot, 75% in his last game, and 68% over the last 3. So it's a plus matchup in the slot. He has that usage, and it's a plus matchup for the tight end. He has that usage. He's going to be there early and often. I love him for an anytime touchdown. Pick him up right now. He is going to smash for you, and that is an elite usage for a tight end with a matchup tailor-made for his fantasy football success. Next, we got Trey Tucker versus the Dallas Cowboys, and I get it. He was pretty putrid this past Thursday, but it was Thursday Night Football, and everybody was bad. Nobody was good. Troy Franklin was good. We told you guys Troy Franklin would be good. But other than that, everybody else sucked. Even Brock Bowers was doo-doo. And we'll tell you why we like Trey Tucker. Dallas has allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers this season, 40.5 points per game. They're also the 4th worst against the X wide receiver. Trey Tucker leads the Raiders with 77% of the snaps from the X position. That got bumped up to 84.8% this past week since Jacoby Myers got dealt to the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's the new primary boundary threat, and that means opportunity volume and touchdown upside. Number 4, Tyler Conklin versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, and we just want to pay attention to the Oronde Gadsden knee injury situation. I wouldn't blow a lot of fab on this, but he has a fantastic situation if Gadsden is anticipated to miss any time. Jacksonville has been the second most favorable defense for tight ends this season, allowing 18.6 PPR points per game. In the last 4 weeks alone, they've allowed almost 29 points per game at the position, by far the most. They have been worse than the Cincinnati Bengals in their last 4 outings. Just put that into, just think about that. And with, like we alluded to earlier, Oronde Gadsden likely Sideline with a knee issue. It could be a knee bruise at the very least. And then at the very worst, it could be a patellar dislocation. Nevertheless, I anticipate he's going to be sidelined for minimum a week, but we'll pay attention. When the news breaks, we'll also break the news as well. Conklin becomes a sneaky volume-based stream with top 10 upside this upcoming week. We'll start with the obvious guys now, and coming in at number 5 on our list is Tez Johnson, and we're going to get into detail with Tez Johnson, and then we're just going to rattle off a bunch of the obvious guys. But we do love Tez Johnson for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This upcoming week, he gets the Buffalo Bills. And let's just be real. He's Tank Dell reincarnate. What if I told you you could get that Tank Dell performance that you saw where he and CJ Stroud absolutely broke fantasy football right now in your waiver wire because he's available? He's available in over 63% of your leagues. He's unequivocally the wide receiver 2 for the Bucs with no timeline for Chris Godwin coming back anytime soon. Yes, he's been trying to practice and trying to get into situations, but we don't know at what rate. And Mike Evans is possibly done for the year. There's also no timeline for him. Tez saw a season high in his usage this past this past week's loss against my New England Patriots. He saw 83% of the snap share and delivered 20.2 PPR fantasy points. And currently, prior to the Monday Night Football game, he is the wide receiver 10 on the week. He's available in 63% of your leagues. And this upcoming week, we have a potential shootout versus the Bills in a must-win game for both of these teams. It probably has the highest implied point total. I want to bet on the highest implied point total game, and I want that in my fantasy football lineup because more often than not, it delivers, and it delivers in a fantastic way. All right, let's talk about the rest of the list. Now, a lot of people are going to be blowing a lot of fab on Tyler Algier. I personally am not. Yes, they have fantastic matchup this upcoming week against the Carolina Panthers, but I cannot recommend in good faith to blow your fab on Tyler Algier, knowing fully well that I would not start him personally. Now, if you need, like he's got RB4 territory, a second or third flex territory, sure. But it's all ceiling, no floor. I don't anticipate that he's going to be stealing a lot of work from Bijan Robinson. So I'm not going to recommend to blow a lot of fab on Tyler Algier. He's simply a handcuff. If anything happens to Bijan Robinson, do not blow your fab on Tyler Algier. I'd much rather get any of the 5 guys that I mentioned above. Next, Tajay Spears. He is the clear back, the starting back there for the Tennessee Titans. He's going to get some work. He's going to get some usage coming off of a bye against a Houston Texans defense that doesn't give a lot of fantasy production. I think he's worth a hold because he has a decent schedule moving forward. Not recommending to start him. Parker Washington, listen, he was phenomenal in the returning game. He also found the end zone as a receiver. He has clearly stepped in, and he's clearly a must-start moving forward. He's got a decent matchup against the Chargers in Week 11. Next, Juwan Johnson. I'm not blowing a lot of fab on him, but he's healthy, and clearly he's back. We were high on Taysom Hill for all the reasons that we like Taysom Hill. Juwan Johnson was the one who benefited from that matchup and that plus matchup. He has a fantastic schedule rest of season moving forward as well. So Juwan Johnson's worth a hold. He does have a bye this upcoming week. Christian Watson, whatever. Dalton Schultz, he's been ascending, and he's continuing to ascend and become a feature tight end in the NFL once again. And it's good to see that he's back into fantasy relevance. You want to pick him up, especially if, say, you had a Roundey Godson injured. He's fantastic. Brian Robinson's a decent handcuff. Amari DeMarcado, whatever. I'm not too in on Amari DeMarcado. This week, the Arizona Cardinals face the San Francisco 49ers. So there is a little upside there, but I'm just crossing my fingers that Trey Benson comes back already. Theo Johnson, but I think Theo Johnson takes a little bit of a dip if Russell Wilson's the quarterback. Russell Wilson doesn't tend to target the tight end position whatsoever. If Jackson Dart somehow clears concussion protocol, then by all means ride with Theo Johnson. Kyle Williams stepped in. He found the end zone. He was absolutely humongous, and nobody saw it coming. That's a lie. Hames on our Saturday show called this. He's called the wild receivers that nobody saw coming 2 weeks in a row. Alec Pierce, he called 2 weeks ago. This past week, he called Kyle Williams. You want to lock in, and you want to tune in to our Saturday show. And you also want to subscribe to Hames. He's absolutely brilliant. Tyler Lockett, I think, is worth a stash because the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football, that'll be their matchup. What a great Monday Night Football matchup in Week 11. That matchup is pretty decent for Tyler Lockett because the Dallas Cowboys, their run defense has improved drastically they've during their bye because they've made a couple significant trades. So we're going to anticipate that we're going to see a lot more passing attempts. And Tyler Lockett played majority of his snaps at the slot, and the Dallas Cowboys give up the 10th most fantasy points at just over 14 fantasy points per game to the slot position. Luke Musgrave, whatever, if you need a tight end, he's worth the pickup. They got the New York Giants. They give up almost no fantasy production to the tight end. Shout out to Colson Loveland. He was really good. Jalen Naylor, we called Jalen Naylor as a smash start. We loved Jalen Naylor this past week. This upcoming week, I can't recommend him in good faith. I mean, like, I think he has decent upside because it's a decent matchup for the slot position, but we can't recommend him in good faith. And then last but not least, if CJ Stroud misses, Davis Mills. Now remember, okay, we don't chase last week's box scores. We chase matchups, usage, and opportunity. If you're serious about winning week 11, these are the ads that are all going to get it done. Drop a like, hit a subscribe, and comment below with your top waiver wire play this week. Let's get you guys into the fantasy football playoffs, and more importantly, let's win those fantasy football championships because we're down to the nitty-gritty, folks. And as always, shout out to our sponsors, Drafters Fantasy, where you could do pick'em tickets, you could do weekly DFS, you could do whatever you want. You can bet hockey, NBA, WNBA, if that's still happening, NFL, MMA. You could bet it all together. You could do PGA DFS. It's weird. Tennis DFS, also weird. But all that's available. It's a fantastic site. And if you use promo code DISCO to double your first deposit, dollar for dollar, up to $100. Shout out to our sponsors, Better Vision. No better place to consolidate all of your bets and all of your gambles all into one spot. No need to have 69 apps open. It's all consolidated into one spot. Shout out to our guys from Bull Rush. Use promo code TheGuyzFF on Bull Rush to get the perfect combination of fantasy and betting. We call it fantasy betting. It's a fantastic place. Check it out. And shout out to our premium Discord, TheGuyzFF. I partnered up with my good friend Sleez from the Sleez YouTube channel, and we have one of the greatest growing fantasy football communities on the planet. You guys need to check it out. You guys, if you want to take your fantasy football lineups to the next level, if you guys want to win your fantasy football money, what's $5, right? Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. I hope you guys enjoy the video. Like the video if you haven't liked the video. Subscribe if you haven't already. Time for the best outro in fantasy football. Peace.